Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Martin Willis, your host. Exciting show tonight. We've had a lot of things happening. If you've been paying attention to what's going on in the news, it's been pretty interesting. And so we have Lue Elizondo on for a little while, a little part of this show. And I'm excited to hear his take on this. And by the way, our blog this week is Charles Lear, who was out in New Mexico, and it's titled My Visit to the National UFO Historical Records Center. And so check that out over at podcastufo.com. Thank you all that support the show. And I have Kevin Wright and Lue Elizondo. I'm going to be bringing them in right now. Here we go. Hey, Lou, how you doing?
Good, Martin. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks so much for your willingness to be on. I know it's a short time. You're only going to be here 15, 20 minutes, but I do appreciate it very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Love you and love your audience.
Great. And Kevin, welcome.
Thank you.
So it's cold. It must be cold where you are. It's freezing everywhere.
It's freezing in DC. It's unnaturally cold this time of year. I mean, it gets cold in the DC winter, but it's particularly cold right now.
How about where you're at, Lou?
Brother, it's minus 20 last night.
Oh my God.
But we had 500 head of elk across the street here.
Ooh.
Up in the mountains, and it's gorgeous. You know, I like the cold. A lot of people know that, you know, being maybe it's genetic because I'm Latino, but I tend to run hot anyways. So to me, it's like nature's air conditioning. I don't mind the cold one bit.
Wow. Well, I'm down at the South Carolina. I visit South Carolina for the winters usually of the last few years. Lucky enough, I would say 35 degrees. There was a hint of snow. People talking about snow today, and guess what? They closed everything: schools, stores, restaurants, and not even a dusting. I think it's a riot. After
you saw that
living in New England,
they had 2 inches of snow on Bourbon Street in New Orleans.
Wow. Yeah, maybe they have no snow plows or anything. It's crazy. So, Lou, since you're on just for the segment of time, we all, or a lot of the audience, I'm sure, watched Ross Coulthart the other night. First of all, I do want to tell you this. That's me. I was right there behind you, 3 rows behind you during the conference. It was great catching up and saying hi for a few minutes there too as well.
It was.
But yeah. So here's another segment in the world of this whole topic. And what is your take on what's going on?
Well, a lot's happening. You know, look, we are continuing to facilitate whistleblowers coming forward. I think Ross did a great job. He did the best he could to get another whistleblower out. I think Jake told his truth. You know, now whether or not people agree with it or disagree with it, you know, everybody's always wanting a new video or a new picture, and I keep telling people that's not what's going to bring disclosure. More and more and more whistleblowers coming forward. You know, unfortunately, sometimes you have whistleblowers that through the test of time, their story doesn't always add up. But I'm not sure that's the case here with Jake. I don't know him personally, but I do know Ross, and I know his journalistic ethics. And when I do know some of the special operators that were working with Jake, and I was very interested in protecting him. He was never going to come out as a whistleblower, and he finally decided to, which I'm very happy he did. You know, people can poo-poo videos all day long. The bottom line is, are you a helicopter pilot? How do you know it's a Huey versus a Black Hawk or anything else? He was a contractor. I know some people are saying it's an aerostat balloon. It's not an aerostat balloon. People are saying all sorts of stuff. You know, I think it's important when we look at videos, we realize it's just a video or a photograph of something that occurred at that time in that particular space under very specific circumstances. I think it's important with any and all whistleblowers. We should welcome them with open arms. And if they are a true whistleblower, offer legal protections. That is how we have this conversation moving forward. Now, I know a lot of people are already predisposed to try to find answers and solutions and say, well, you know, I didn't see the ground moving in dust, or, you know, look, I've been in a lot of helicopters, and depending on the rotor wash, depending on which way the wind's blowing, sometimes the sand blows, sometimes it doesn't. You know, it is what it is. And especially after a rain and the ground isn't dusty, it's not going to blow around very much. It's going to look exactly kind of like that. I think, you know, there's a lot more to this. look, Ross had a very short window of time to get a lot of information out. And so that's probably why to some people made the comment that the interview seemed a bit disjointed or it didn't spend enough time on one thing or another. From my understanding, I think NewsNation, and I could be wrong here, is going to release the entire 2.5-hour interview here soon.
Mhm.
So people can judge for themselves. That's why I'm always very neutral when I talk about things. I say, look, if this turns out to be legit, it's going to be huge, but time will tell if it's going to stand the test of time. I think we need to give everybody the opportunity. If someone says that they have something they need to say, then we need to let them say it. All voices, all perspectives matter. And this is something I've been saying since day one. There's a lot of people in ufology who have pretty outstanding claims, and people just buy it hook, line, and sinker. At least this guy, Jake, was willing to come forward with a video. At least he had people and eyewitnesses that supported him, and he is who he says he is, and he was a special operator, and he's been there and done that. Unlike a lot of other people who've never even served their country, and they want to throw a stone. My answer is, well, get your ass off of the sofa and out of your mom's basement, put some damn clothes on and do something, right? Stop just being an armchair quarterback. As you can tell that obviously I'm a little emotional about it, right? There's a lot of people out there that want to see this thing fail. And if for no other reason, it's because I think they are confusing the messenger with the message, because they don't like somebody or because they pick, Team Joe instead of Team Bill or Team Jane. It's kind of an us versus them mentality. And they don't realize we're all in this together. If you spent half the amount of energy that you do attacking other individuals and actually working towards disclosure, we might actually have disclosure a little faster, right? And so this is kind of my perspective. I have always said, welcome any and all whistleblowers. I don't care what walk of life you're from. I don't care if you're military. I don't care if you're civilian. I don't care whatever. Come forward. You know how many people on a daily basis blow up my email and my phone and my text messages and my signal to tell me about their stories and about their encounters. And it's important. All of that matters. And so I don't understand when a military person does it, all of a sudden there's this visceral reaction. But I think like everything else, time will tell. There's a lot happening, and 2025 is going to be a big, big year. Now, I know some people
just like you've been saying.
Well,
you've been saying 2025 was going to be a big year. Yeah.
I haven't misled you guys yet. It's been 7 years, and every time I say something's going to happen, it happens. That's not clairvoyance. That just happens to be the fact that I maybe know a few people, doing a few things up in Washington, D.C. and other places. So I'm very excited. I think this is going to be a great year. I think we need to do a better job policing our own, because with the reaction that Jake had and Ross had, I don't know how many whistleblowers would want to come out after seeing that and witnessing the type of visceral that Jake had to endure and some of his colleagues, and Ross. Ross is doing it. He's putting his credibility on the line, putting these kind of news stories out for people. And then when he does, what do? They slap him. And that's not really good encouragement. If you want more whistleblowers to come out, maybe people should be a little more positive towards some of these whistleblowers who, by the way, have actually served their country and put their life on the line for us as American citizens. A lot of these people I've noticed who like to criticize have never served their country in any capacity. Best of my knowledge, they're not doing anything from a civil perspective. They're not volunteering their time, helping their fellow people out, or I don't know how many people in the UFO Twitter world or X world went to California and helped people with fires. A lot of them will sit there and sling mud at each other. But how about do something? How about serve your fellow man, your brothers and your sisters out there, and do something that's actually productive and positive for once, instead of just being negative. And look, a lot of this is entitlement, right? This mentality of you owe me. You sit back and watch TV and, well, this isn't good enough, and I want this, and I don't want just a steak dinner. I want it medium rare, but I want the peppercorn to be cracked peppercorn, not regular pepper, and I want to make sure that it's been put in for exactly 7.5 minutes. Now wait a minute. So not only are you hungry and you want to be fed, and you're not willing to feed yourself or do anything about it, but when someone comes up and actually offers you a meal, you criticize them for it, right? So this is the mentality we have to get over. And this is why I said the biggest enemy to ufology is ufologists. I can see that.
Yeah.
They don't get it. You know, a lot of folks like you, Martin, do a really, really good job. And I've always seen you've been very, very neutral and very, very accommodating and welcoming to people. Doesn't matter what side of the argument they're on. You know, they're Lue haters, fine. I have them on, but just have a fair and honest and objective conversation. Which is something for some reason a lot of people have a hard time doing. A lot of people tend to make this UFO conversation about them. And it's not about them. It's not about you, and it's not about me. Okay. It's about all of us together. And this is why I've said, you know, if you ever want to look at a good leader, they never use the words me, mine, or I. It's always us, we, and ours. Right. And that is really, I think, the mentality that we all should try to do a better job, adopting. Maybe we'll have a little bit, we'll have more success a little quicker if people just kind of tried their best to keep their negative comments to themselves. Objectivity is great. I have no problem with that. What I don't like is the slander and the name calling and the cursing. You know, a lot of these people will start cursing all over X. And look, there's kids that get on X. There's grandmas out there. Why are you espousing such visceral online? You know, it's pretty amazing what people are willing to do behind a keyboard. The moment that they get behind that they get away from that keyboard, they meet you in person. Well, I'll tell you what, they start looking at your arms and your chest and they say, whoa, well, maybe I should be a little bit more polite. It's pretty amazing what people will say in public when they're pretty sure they're not going to get punched in the mouth. Right. Isn't that right? Something that Mike Tyson said. So I think we have to hold ourselves more accountable. We have to act like adults. We have to stop behaving like children. You know, Martin, you do a great job at that. Thank you. And Kevin, you as well. I've had the honor and privilege of working with Kevin a little bit tangentially in the past on some past projects, and always had a really good experience with that. So I do want to say, as I'm, kind of sitting here and slamming some certain behavior, I do also want to call out good behavior. So thank you for what you guys do.
Oh, well, thank you. Now, I just want to say there's, some aspects about this that are really interesting. One of them is I have a longtime friend was a military helicopter, now a contractor for the military and a helicopter. And he looked at the film and had, quite a bit of feedback. But also my friend Chris Lito over in Portugal made this clip. I'm going to run it real quickly.
A former F-16 pilot here. Reasonable questions. Why is there no rotor wash? And why are there no ground crew members for the White Egg UAP? And the biggest reason is this is Black Ops, right? So it is at night. That's all under night vision devices. So that light is probably not even regular light. That's probably covert lighting. As F-16 pilots, we flew night vision goggles all the time, and they are extremely, extremely dangerous. If you haven't flown for 6 months, you have to go through another upgrade program. And the reason is it's not like riding a bike. So what you're going to see under covert lighting is very different than what you're going to see under regular optical lighting. There's many optical illusions, and this means you're probably not going to see dust. It means it's not grass. It's probably hard rock. And at night, if you have a large egg-shaped object rolling around in the dark, you probably don't want ground crew down there.
So I thought that was interesting. And, my helicopter friend had all kinds of thoughts and, everything from the rotor noise to, I think he called it the belly hatch is where that thing was lowered from.
That's a really good point, Martin. I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm going to for a quick second because it's a really good point about night vision. Look, people will say all the time, well, why can't we see better? First of all, you need to understand what night vision is. Okay, there's 3 types of night vision, and there's thermal, which is picking up heat, right, like FLIR, forward-looking infrared. Then you have actual active and passive night vision. You have active illumination using an infrared source, like a spotlight. That if somebody has kind of more of the cheaper models of the night vision, that's usually what it has. It has an IR emitter that illuminates. A lot of field cams, for example, when you look at a field camera night vision, that's active illumination. Something is like a tripwire. It trips it. It sends out an infrared spotlight that you can't see with your naked eye, but can be detected by the infrared. Then you have something called starlight. And starlight is the actual amplification of ambient light and moonlight. And that is a different type of infrared source. And there's different generations, Gen 1, 2, 3, 4, and some of the military grade stuff. So first of all, people need to understand, what type of light illumination we're looking at, what type of night vision, right? And then second of all, where are we? Third of all, under what circumstances are we looking at this, right? And As far as the helicopter is concerned, what we call a sling load, which is what this is. This is something that is being carried by a helicopter. All that's important. And then you have different types of helicopters. You have things like Chinooks, which are, by the way, two blades, not one blade of a helicopter, which is going to create a different type of rotor wash. And depending on where you are, you might not detect the rotor wash at all, right? So it depends, like I said, on the ground situation and was there a recent rain there, and what type of terrain are we talking about? And looking at it looks like flat. The problem with night vision is you don't have depth perception, and you also don't have angle and slope, meaning you really can't tell the topography. You don't know. The reason why there's not people there, maybe because on the side of a mountain, it might not even be a flat surface that they're dropping it on. So
Right.
there's a lot of questions here that really only Jake and whoever was with him can answer. And this is my problem with the internet sleuths out there. Sometimes they get it right, but other times they will just kind of throw. It's like, if any of you have any pet cats at home, and when the cat kind of gets upset with you, what do? They go to the litter box and kind of start slinging cat litter everywhere and making a mess. That's kind of the way I look at some of the comments regarding the video. There's a lot more information we need before people can just start, saying one way or the other, this is absolutely, authentic, or this is absolutely fake. And therein lies part of my frustration. So Martin, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to follow on that piece as you were talking about that.
Yeah. No, he was saying, he thought it was the belly hatch, possibly. He also thought that it's a possibility that this was kind of like an emergency type drop. Could have been a fuel situation. There could have been all kinds of things, that are all unknowns. And it would be good to have more context around the video.
Well, let me tell you something. If you're picking up something that's truly exotic, are you going to have people standing right below it touching it if you have no idea what the hell it is?
And not only that, it could emanate
guys,
radiation.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're going to keep people at a distance, because if this thing has some sort of biological effect, negative consequence, because it's radioactive or something like that, it's emitting something, or maybe it's super hot. There's no way to tell. You don't know what temperature it is, right? So this is my frustration. We were like, well, there's no ground crew there. Well, because maybe you're not supposed to have a ground crew there. I mean, if you have something that's particularly dangerous and no one knows what the hell it is, maybe that's not a great idea. So again, I'm not defending it, and I'm not attacking it. What I'm trying to say is that there's a whole lot of what ifs and questions regarding this, even this short little video, we have no idea about. And for people to just jump to a conclusion, I think it's premature.
They did have to put it in the sling to begin with,
Correct.
But maybe they could have had hazmat on if that was needed at that location.
Well, and also, you don't know. I mean, look, there's ways to do things with robotics. Look, we do it with bombs all the time. I mean, you can have an object there, and you can drop a sling, and you can have a robot go out there, an ROV, and connect the sling load, right? Or if you do it right. So again, I'm not saying that's what happened. So let me just clarify here, because someone inevitably is going to go on the internet and say, Lou said it was this. I'm not saying that, right? Just like everybody said, oh, Lou said an object's coming and it's 2027. I did not say that. So, people love to put words in my mouth, and then they do little clever clips on certain things to try to edit what I'm saying and say, look, Lou said this. Sure. But it doesn't turn out to be.
Well, all I can tell you, Louis, hang in there. We need you here. So please don't leave. So here's a question here from Chris. Do you think people who tend to believe in the government are holding secrets are better represented in the new administration? And if so, will they get secrets released as they demand? I don't know about demand, but possibly.
Look, I think this new administration is very, very proactive. There's a lot of people in this new administration. Again, let me caveat again, because people are going to say, I've had people tell me all the time that Lou's a MAGA guy, and then other people say, no, Lou's a never Trumper. Okay, first of all, people have no idea my political affiliation. So I tell people, stop guessing, you're wasting your time. But politics aside, this administration has made several signals that it is absolutely willing to get to the bottom of this. The drone issue, the UAP issue, the JFK files, this sense of secrecy, the trust and confidence the American people have in their government is at an all-time low. So this administration realizes that. You have key people that are going to be occupying cabinet level positions that want the truth to come out. So I think I'm extremely optimistic that we're going to get a whole lot more answers than we have the last 4 years regarding this topic. Again, let me caveat this topic. Politics aside, whether you're a liberal or you're a conservative or anything in the middle, I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about simply the position of an administration that is willing to be more transparent with the American people. And we are seeing signals of that. I think within the first very few weeks, maybe very first few days, you might start seeing some new executive orders coming out from the White House related to this topic. You might start seeing some policy decisions. You might start seeing some individuals on the National Security Council who may have had tangentially been involved in this topic back when they were working, I don't know, maybe in Congress, working as a senior staffer for somebody. So there's a lot happening behind the scenes, and I'm very encouraged by that.
Yeah, and Lou, before you go, first of all, I know you got to go. I'm just going to try to stretch you just a little bit longer here in this question. And, you know, I got to say the part where he got emotional in that whole thing, to me, that felt very authentic. And I've actually heard some things very similar over the years that people have talked about, like that connection, that feeling of there's the Allagash incident up in Maine. Jack Weiner talks about like he had a connection of love. It was hard for him to say it publicly, but he did in an interview that he felt this overwhelming love like he never felt before when he had a connection.
People that report that. There's people that also report the opposite of sheer terror and warning and foreboding, saying don't approach, right? I saw it and I was curious, but something inside me told me this isn't good. Don't approach that. So you're right. I mean, the human being is a very sensitive, it's like a tuning fork. And it can pick up energy, whatever that energy is, fear or love or excitement or anything else. And so let's see here. Another question.
Whoops.
Just got here.
Yeah, that's not the one I was trying to put up. Someone wanted to know if you've had, this is it right here. Have you had an experience with psionic summoning of UFOs or anyone that you know of?
You know, there's parts of my life that I haven't been really willing to share publicly. And people probably noticed over the last 7 years, I've opened up a lot more. But
your dog's opening up. Yeah.
That's not mine. By the way, I have 5 of these little fur babies upstairs, but they tend to be, especially at this time of the evening, they're having supper and starting to wind down. So that's just for the record, those aren't my dogs barking in the background. You know, I'm gonna do a polite pass on that. Because whether I do or I did, you know, people are now going to say, "Oh, look, Lou had experience with this," and you know, again, I can't avoid people filling in the blanks, but there's
here's the last question for you here. And this is actually a friend, Christian Lambright. He's a researcher, UFO researcher. And your IG complaint, you said Stratton came to his office in 2008. How did Stratton and whoever sent him even know about the ASWAP contract months before it even had been put out? That's
because they were part of building it. Stratton was one of the key individuals with OSAP, along with Jim Lukatsky. So he was part of this effort before I was, and he was actually one of the original founders of the OSAP program. At the time, Jay was junior to me, but still senior in federal service. But he is the one. Him and a few others were the ones who really started the bureaucratic process to finalize and codify OSAP and AATIP as an actual program.
Mm-hmm. Well, Lou, I want to thank you so much for all you do. And you just put a plug out there for your podcast. You run a video podcast, is it right?
Look, you know, I hate plugging myself. People always, you know.
All right. Well, I'll plug you. If you look for Lue Elizondo, he's got his YouTube channel, and there's some great information on there. I think you're doing a great job. I really enjoyed.
Thank you, Martin. I don't have a whole lot of guests. It's kind of just my way to communicate intimately with the audience and provide updates and my thoughts on things. Hopefully, people find it, you know, interesting and worthwhile. If not, you know. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Martin, thank you for having me on. And Kevin, great to see you again, buddy.
Good to see you.
Hope everybody's doing well. You know, like I said, a lot of things are happening in 2025. So, you know,
maybe I'll see you again at another hearing. Anytime there's a hearing, I'm going.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of possibilities, aren't there, in the next few months? Who knows where I may decide to go. So, but either way, it's you know, whatever happens, I try to make sure it's always in the positive direction and it's for disclosure and transparency.
Excellent. All right. Well, stay warm, Lou.
Thank you, good sir. Kevin, great to see you again.
Good to see you, Lou. Thank you. Thank you, Lou.
I think I just used the wrong hand for saluting, but that's okay, I guess. But anyway, That was awesome. Glad to have him on. And so
Yeah.
now we're going to keep an eye on the chat here. So I
Sure.
just want to, Kevin, you watched the whole thing. You and I've been communicating. I thought you would be a really good person to have on because of what you do. And I know you were on before, but for the newcomer, can you explain what you do basically?
Sure. So I've been working in Washington D.C. for about 25 years, and in the last several years, I sort of devoted my time to the UAP, UFO disclosure, government transparency and accountability aspect here. Using what I've learned over the past 25 years on politics and communications and issue advocacy, and really trying to work with other people, including people like Lue, on trying to push the ball down the field here. So one of my main clients is actually New Paradigm Institute, which I'm sure many of your listeners probably know is Danny Sheehan's organization. So I do a lot of work with them.
Sorry, I mute my mic. It's we met a couple of years ago, July 23,
That's
July
right.
26, 23. And yeah, you were one of the early birds early in the line.
Yeah.
What I got to tell you, the last one, that was, you made it there, but during the day, right? Didn't we catch up during the day?
Yeah, we caught up in the morning there. Yeah.
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 But overnight there, it was so cold, it was
Very
brutal.
cold.
Yeah. But anyway, it's exciting. I just feel like things are just moving along here. And so you and I both watched the Ross Coulthart special the other night.
Right.
We had some thoughts on it. Some parts of it I started to react in a kind of a way like, oh boy, that's quite a bit to swallow. And I do think it is, but I'm keeping an open mind to it. Now, as you know, I said to you earlier, no matter what we say on this show tonight, we're going to have some people bash us because that's the way society and social media is right now. It's like, you're good, I'm bad, I'm right, you're wrong, that type of thing. So I'm keeping an open mind to this, and I want to see how this develops. I don't think we're going to be disappointed, though, overall. What do you think?
I agree. I think that having an open mind is, an imperative here. And I think what Lou was just trying to, say was essentially the same thing. I think what it reminds me of is, President Ronald Reagan turned an old Russian proverb into a spear against the Soviet Union, which is trust but verify. So I think if we look at, what Jake Barber and others said in the interview with Ross Coulthart, and given Ross Coulthart's background and his, his awards that he's won and, his investigative integrity, that we can look at this as sort of a trust but verify moment. Now, the unfortunate part of that, Martin, is that, of course, that neither you nor I are actually able to verify, what it is that Jake and others, alleged in the conversation. However, what we can do is, hope that somebody else does, which would be, the Department of Justice, but that's not highly likely, right? But even if they did, they wouldn't announce they had an investigation. But we could, expect that Congress does its job, pays attention, because the Senate Intelligence Committee, the House House Intelligence Committee has certainly received reports of this type of information, and they should do their job and investigate. They should set up a select committee, as we've advocated for many times over the course of the last year, and do their job.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the feedback? You and I both been kind of paying attention. In general, do you see it's like the same that we've been seeing, like on Twitter and social media, like, oh, this is crazy, and then some people saying, they're battling. People are battling about this.
Sure, of course.
I do kind of feel like what Lou just said made a lot of sense, because, the more we battle these people and put them down, the less, if there's true whistleblowers, and we'd be throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and a lot of people wouldn't be coming forward because they don't want to be treated like these examples.
Right. And essentially, the intelligence community, the gatekeepers, the people that are behind these alleged programs, this is what they want. They want the horizontal fight going on, the intrascene warfare going on between, not just the people that are advocating for the truth on this subject, but also those who are the debunkers and the skeptics. But also they want to have that fight amongst, the advocates of truth and transparency and accountability. They want this internecine warfare going on to distract us and just sort of discredit us, as well as, the whistleblowers and the investigators and people that come forward. Because, when Congress looks at this and sees, this sort of vitriol going back and forth and accusing people of, lying and doing various things, then they don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. But anyway, let's just break down some of the aspects of the interview from what we saw.
Sure.
First of all, he seemed like he might have been suffering a little PTSD from that radiation, or whatever it was. It sounds like radiation to me when he talks about, his skin
Right.
was lopping off after this
Right.
one. It was in some box he was transporting. So that would have to, if it was something radioactive or something like that, and this was on a 50 foot cable, down below in a box or something, that would have to be pretty high. It just seems like it would have to be, pretty high radiation emanating out of that in all directions. And and plus this thing was moving. It's really seems like a crazy thing that they'd have him do. I mean, I'm not saying I don't believe him. I'm just saying that and alone, whatever was in that, it sounds like they're not being responsible and putting someone like him in danger.
Is that really any surprise, though? I mean, we have burn pits where we've exposed veterans to all kinds of toxic chemicals, and we've subjected people to experimentation without their knowledge. And our government and private defense contractors and private contractors of various sorts have done all kinds of bad things without care for the people that are under their employ or under their care. It's not a surprise.
Unfortunately, that's true. Yeah, and how do you feel that this has rippled out there or not? I mean, I see kind of a lack of media. I mean, I saw something on Yahoo News, and I think there's one other, maybe one new mainstream besides NewsNation that mentioned it, but it's not really making the waves that I thought it would. What do you think about that?
Well, I personally probably didn't expect much news coverage beyond NewsNation and the podcasts and the social media and things, because they don't want to cover the subject. I mean, that's the record is replete with dereliction of duty when it comes to the mainstream media covering this topic whatsoever. And unfortunately, this new segment with Ross and NewsNation and Jake and the others is that it's it touches on some subject matters that people just simply aren't comfortable with. And it makes total sense that, the New York Times isn't going to cover it. The Washington Post isn't going to cover it. CNN's not going to cover it. Fox News, maybe. But I don't expect anybody to be covering this in any way that's of significance for us now.
Right. Let's see. I'm trying to put in our phone number. It's not working. Let me try something else here. But our phone is up at 855-472-5483. I'd love to hear your opinions out there. So please do give us a call, and we want to talk about this. And I'm not sure why this is not working. Let me see if I can. Here we go. All right, here we go. Yep, I had it up there. Here it is, 855-472-5483. And love to hear your opinion. And I don't care if it's negative, positive, just don't be mean or too angry. But love to hear from you. Moving forward, we're going to see what happens. And there are other whistleblowers, or if that's what you want to call them. I don't know if they're considered a whistleblower unless they go through all the steps legally, all the, the paperwork and presented and all that.
I don't know if that's necessarily, well, I can't say 100% certainty to do that, but what I would say is that, we've had whistleblowers that have come forward outside of government to blow the whistle on private enterprise before, and there was obviously no exact process for doing so. So I don't think that we can discount someone as a whistleblower because they haven't gone through DOPSR or those sorts of things. But obviously there have been people who have come forward, like David Grush, who went through a certain process, but it's entirely likely that there's going to be others that will have to come forward that did not go through that process because they were, in fear for their safety and their jobs and their family and things like that. So I wouldn't necessarily classify whistleblowers simply because they went through a particular process.
All right, let's talk about the witness, Jake Barber himself, openly, and not criticizing him. But I'm going to say, as far as him being, authentic, he seemed authentic. Some have argued that, he may believe it, but it may be some, problems that he has that makes him, react that way. So I asked my helicopter friend, who is and was part of teams, and now he's part of a team, a contracting team, goes all over the world. I think he's in Saudi Arabia right now, but he was saying that every team member watches everyone. They're all watching each other to see if there's any erratic behavior, because you can't have that under these circumstances, what they do for work. So that right alone makes me say something to all these people that are saying, oh, this guy, might be schizophrenic or something like that. That's highly unlikely, I should say. I can never say can't, but that's highly unlikely, in my opinion, that is the case. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's always problematic when somebody watches their television or reads a news story or watches a podcast or something and diagnoses somebody with a particular ailment, whether that's physiological or psychological, and diagnoses them with something, particularly if they're not even a doctor or something. You have to actually, interview somebody, go through their medical records, etc., to sort of, even legitimately have an opinion about what somebody's mental state might be, especially at a given moment in time when they're experiencing something in their lives. So, it's always problematic when somebody is pretending to or trying to diagnose somebody with something without even knowing the person or having met them or reviewed their medical files. So I don't really know what else to say about that.
Yeah. Well, the only thing we can do is, time kind of reveals all, as they say. So, eventually we'll find out more. I do know that these people that are working with him, these other people, that they are, someone I know knows someone that was on the news in that program, and he asked him directly if he could be on this show tonight, and none of them can be on anyone's show for a while. They signed some type of agreement, but eventually, these people will talk, and we'll know a lot more. The whole aspect about, there was a lot to listen to the other night, and there was a lot of things to consider. And my first thought about that whole summoning in and the CE5 and all that, it was a little difficult for me, because I've always thought that was not so credible. But I have to have an open mind and just see what we learn, because I say this quite often, that I feel as though we really know very little about what's going around us at all times. I don't think we have a clue. So
Right.
That's why I have to keep an open mind and not take a hard stand. That I saw in the chat just a minute ago, where someone said, if I saw something at an auction that was unauthentic, I would be calling it out, and I think that person feels this is unauthentic. So I don't, the video, I don't know what to say about the video. I've had a lot of people look at it. What is the feedback that you've heard on the video yourself?
Well, I certainly can't, validate the video or claim that it's, a fake or anything like that. I have no idea. I've certainly seen some of the criticisms of, that it could be a blimp, that, that when it's set down on the ground, that it shouldn't have moved or something, along those lines. What I would say is that, the segment is very, the clip of the video is very short. So it's really hard to determine exactly what is going on there, other than, this object being lowered onto the ground and then it moves. But the thing about this is that we don't know exactly what a UAP is comprised of, what it weighs, what it does. So I mean, to determine that it shouldn't have moved because it should have been too heavy or something like that, I mean, we just have no way of knowing. I mean, what if it weighs, very little? I mean, I have no idea, So, there are valid criticisms or valid points to make of, well, I think that, it looks like this, or it shouldn't have done that. It's like I said earlier, Martin, that neither you nor I have the ability to substantiate or confirm, any of the details that were in this interview or the video or anything else. But that's why we need Congress to set up a select committee and investigate this, because there are certain members of Congress, particularly on intelligence and some members of armed services in both the House and Senate, that certainly have a lot more information, including oversight committee. And so what they need to do is press Speaker Mike Johnson to set up a select committee.
Right.
And of course, we also need to put more pressure on President Trump as well, because he has made some promises, and now the time has come that we're going to have to hold him account to it.
I think we have someone on the line, Kevin Wright from Florida, I believe.
Oh.
But anyway, I brought up the egg here, the Socorro egg, for those of you who are familiar with that. And that's kind of more of a oval shape than other depictions of it. But a lot of people have, there is a connection with the egg, UFO, as bizarre as that sounds, But so I'll just say this. If we do have, Chanel, if we do have that caller online, let's bring him in. Kevin, you there from Florida?
Yeah, Martin, this is the second time we've spoken. It's probably been over a year since I've talked to you, and you might have thought I was the other Kevin Wright when I called in.
Yeah,
I'm calling to disabuse you of that misapprehension there.
Yeah. Hey, well, welcome, Kevin, and meet Kevin, your other Kevin Wright. Two
Hi,
Kevin
Kevin.
Wrights.
Yeah, I've heard the name before, and it's caught my attention, so I just couldn't resist the idea of calling in. But I tend to take a sort of a Richard Dolan perspective on this, at least in the public sphere. If we could just get out there some acknowledgement, official government acknowledgement of some of the more dramatic, more important historical incidents that have been in the public sphere, for instance, the 1952 flap over Washington, the Roswell case, the interactions of different NASA astronauts with UFOs. What comes to mind would be Gordon Cooper and his filming of that incident at Edwards Air Force Base. When we go to real-time incidences of actual, guys in the field who are doing what this latest report is with capturing egg and stuff like that, it just it starts impinging on sources and methods, and then we get all tied up in the spooks and turf battles and name calling and everything else that's associated with it. We could focus on just some basic common ground, which was in the headlines 40, 50 years ago, and just get acknowledgments on those. It would help to move the ball forward on these incidents that are happening right now, such as the drones over in New Jersey or the other interactions across the world.
Right. And when I had the conversation I had with Ryan Graves recently, he said, it's just the media is not covering it, but these drones it's still happening. It's still going on, which I think is pretty wild.
As far as the media, I think the media is Tucker Carlson, the Blaze TV with Glenn Beck, Redacted with, I think it's Clay Morris. There's Joe Rogan's podcast. The number of new media outlets which are reaching huge audiences, which if you're waiting for Yahoo News or the New York Times to start covering these things with any depth or clarity, you're going to miss the boat, because frankly, these organizations apparently are controlled by the intelligence apparatus, and they're taking the orders from the director of Central Intelligence or some other government organ.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was kind of surprised to see Yahoo News actually did talk about the about Jake Barber, the whistleblower, whatever his title would be. But they actually did post that today when I was looking through to see if it was on the what media was covering this. But thank you, Kevin, so much for your call.
Well,
Oh,
keep up the
I
good
should
work,
ask you
Wright.
anything else while you're online.
Well, I just want to encourage Kevin Wright to keep up the good work.
Thank you, Kevin.
Keep the name good. Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you. Take care now. All right.
If I could, I'll just say that
Yeah.
it's an interesting, point that we wish that, the government would finally reveal some details about, X incident. The problem is here, though, of course, that, the government, departments and agencies of the executive branch, Department of Defense, Department of Energy, the intelligence community, they want the public right now to think that this UAP phenomena is something that is only sort of new of the last 20 years. That's why they've only gone back to, Aero has only gone back to the early 2000s to investigate some of these instances. They only wanted to go back 10 years. And they sort of got forced to go back to at least 2004, Nimitz and things like that. But so if they divulge the truth about an incident that happened in the 1940s or 50s or 60s, then they have to admit that they've known about this all along, right? And that all the other investigations that came before that were public, such as Project Blue Book, that they'd have to admit that the conclusions that Project Blue Book came to and other investigations were not truthful and accurate. So, I mean, that in itself is a revelation of, disinformation and lies. And that's why we are not given the truth so far about incidences such as possibly, Roswell and others, because to do so would be to admit that they've been lying about it all along up until the time that they make that revelation.
Right. I do want to say, I said that I would announce this from the publicist from PBS that tomorrow at 8 Central is the Nova special, What Are UFOs? ? I was able to watch the screener, and I have to say it's interesting. There's some things I don't totally agree with. I had the producer writer on this show a couple of days ago. But I do encourage to watch it because it's still very good, even though you may not agree with all of it.
Right.
But that's on PBS tomorrow, again, 8 Central. And you can check for your local listings. But I just thought I'd throw that out. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel optimistic, even though, there's a lot of mudslinging out there about this particular case. And someone just wrote in chat just a minute ago that Ross, hurried too fast to get it out there. But he did take 2 years with this. And someone I had spoke to said, kind of backed that up, that I spoke to a while back, said that he said they was working with the guy over a year and a half. So, there's got to be a lot of things to consider when you're going to come out and make these type of claims. And, so he's an award-winning journalist, a former 60 Minutes Australia reporter. So, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for being open-minded and to see where this whole thing goes and what we learn. We may learn some negative things, but we may also learn some, positive things. And we just don't want to throw the whole thing out just because we can't, prove this video is right or isn't. In my opinion, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, in my opinion, I don't think the video helped or was that necessary, in my own opinion. I think the story would have been good enough. But anytime you say, well, we have this proof, and when you make the claim, well, this has got to be the best UAP video that there is out there, we don't know what that is. It's an white egg-shaped thing. We have no clue as to it being a UAP. Now, Ross also makes the claim that some people in the Pentagon actually said that was non-human intelligence created by that in that range. That I don't know if it's that particular one, but that's quite a bold claim. And I don't think he would just make that haphazardly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he makes some very good points there. And I think it's also a good reminder that, we as a community in the UFO, UAP, transparency and disclosure community, have been asking for firsthand whistleblowers to come forward. And, one does come forward. And, some people, want to, dissect it in such a way that it becomes, very divisive. And, I guess on the one hand, we need to obviously do our due diligence and investigate. But at the same time, we have to be cognizant of the fact that if we want more of these whistleblowers to come forward, if we're going to shred them up ourselves, then they're going to be less inclined to do so, because they're already putting their their jobs, their security clearances, their family at risk. Potentially, if you believe certain accounts and allegations, they're potentially putting their lives at risk. So we have to take that into consideration when we say we want the whistleblowers to come forward, and then one comes forward, and then we don't, give them the respect at least. I think that's problematic.
And here's something it's only my opinion and my guess and my thought, but I'm not sure about it. But I'm assuming that some of the people that are out there slinging the mud on this are people that are thinking to themselves, I've been at this for 30 years trying to figure out what this is. And all of a sudden these people just come along and they kind of take over, and, they have their own way. And, Jake is making this group and they think they're going to do all this. And we've been trying for 30 or 40 years. What are they doing? They can't do that, that type of thing. I think there's some of that. Now, I may be totally wrong on that. It's just an opinion of the way I'm seeing some of these reactions and thinking that might have something to do with it. I don't know for sure.
Well, certainly could be. I mean, there's always people, no matter what what the issue is, there's always people that, are interested in their own clout and their own, sphere of influence. And so, the UFO UAP issue is no different from any other one where, people have built up, their reputations and their spheres of influence and want to protect that for sure.
And that kind of makes me go, and I hope no one cringes too much when I say this, but someone just before we came on the show, someone said, "Oh, hey, did you see what Dr. Greer just came out with? All these whistleblowers or something like that." There's, and I'm going to be careful what I say, but there's too many people that try to make it, as Lou was talking about, too many people that try to make it about themselves instead of the whole picture. And I don't know what's going on. I do have to say that Greer did do some great work many years ago. I think, and I just better leave it at that. But I also think that a lot of people on the outside, when they're coming in, people like Mike Herrera and other people like that, when they first, Jonathan Wygant, who's been on this show, when they first look into, okay, should I trust that I want to tell my story to? And this guy's a doctor, should be able to trust him. Let's talk. And they give him an extraordinary story. And some of them are really amazing and good. So he still has that type of pull. But anyway, I'm not sure. I don't know if someone in chat can put a link to this revelation that he came out with today. I'm not sure, but I don't believe it had anything to do with Jake Barber. I'm not sure though. But are you?
I'm entirely unaware. I have no idea if he's, Dr. Greer said anything today, or I have no idea.
Yeah, but anyway, that just came out, and we just got a couple of minutes left here, and so I want to say, what do you think the path forward is going to be?
Well, I mean, I think the evidence, or maybe not evidence, what the hope is based on, public statements is that now President Trump is going to move forward in some way, potentially with some executive orders in the direction of some of his new cabinet officials and staff to start moving forward with some sort of disclosure. And hopefully, in conjunction with that, there'll be enough public sentiment that will create Congress to take more considerable attention to this matter and eventually form this select committee that we've been advocating for, and then see what happens from there. I mean, ideally, I think what we'd want to see happen is that President Trump enacts as much of the UAPDA, the UAP Disclosure Act, as he possibly can through executive order, and then invite Congress in to say, look, these are the types of things that have been going on, and what you need to do is investigate the executive branch. I mean, if he really wants to go after, what he calls the deep state, there's nothing deeper than, the gatekeepers of this secret and, what's been done in furtherance of keeping the secret. So if we really want to get at the heart of it, it's going to take a whole of government approach. It's not going to be just Congress. It's not going to be just President Trump. This will eventually require, the judiciary to be involved and, any number of things. So it's not going to be any one thing. It's going to have to be, multiple things happening simultaneously. That's
right. Well, we are at the end of the show here. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone over at KGRA Radio. We have Rebecca Charbonneau next week. We have Bob Salas and a few other great guests coming up as well. And thanks so much, Kevin. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah.
Awesome as always.
Keep me in the loop in Washington, D.C. If you have another hearing comes along, you'll see me again. All right. Okay, everyone. So thanks for being... I wasn't done. I was saying thanks for being here and keep your eyes to the sky.